So today we're going to be looking at Grasshopper. Okay, so I'll start off I want to look at lists and kind of what is a list and how you can start using Grasshopper not just to create like one object but like a series of objects, and then once we have multiple objects, how do we manage those? So I'm going to just start off by telling it to construct a point. So I just have a random point here, and then I'm going to tell it you can do a point, and then you could also create a series. So that's another cool thing. So let me show you series. So what series does is, instead of giving you one item, it will create, you can set where you want this list of numbers to start, how much you want it to step after each one, and then how many you want. So right now this is telling me I want to create 10 items. Each one will step the value of 1, and it starts at 0. So if you look at what actually came out of this panel, it's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. If I come in here, let's just put a number slider, and I tell it the step to become 4, notice how this now goes 0, 4, 8, 12, 16. So series, all it does is makes like a series of numbers. So think of it like a pattern or whatever you want to think of. So if I were to type in here x coordinate is just set to 0, if I also tell it bring this series and put it in there, now look, we have a bunch of points, right? Because instead of getting one input value for x, we have 10. And then if you grab another number slider, I'm just double clicking and writing the number I want, and we place that in here. So now you can see we have a ton of them. So think of this kind of like an array, like we would do traditionally. And then you can change the spacing in between using this one. We can make it tighter or more spread out. But what we got now is a bunch of different points at all these different places, right? So with this, let's say I wanted to just so that we could start looking at things, we can look at creating like circle, and then the center of the circle, let's put them all here, and then radius, so it's probably too big. So a radius of 3. Oh, we could just space them out more. There you go. So now we have a bunch of circles. If I wanted to extrude these, so let's go ahead and say extrude. So I'm going to do this in the base direction and say unit Z because I want to go vertical. And then the factor, that's basically the height. So this is similar to what we did last class. So here I could put, if you add 2 decimals after whatever you do, you'll get 2 decimal places for like the accuracy of your slider. So now we have all of these. So let's say I wanted to grab certain ones out of this. Instead of all of them, there's a bunch of ways we can do this. So if you look up here, if you go up under sets, you have all these different sort of ways of adjusting a list. So if you go under sets and then start looking at this, so if you ever forget kind of how to do this, at least try and use this logic to find your way around. So look up here where it says sets, look under lists or sequences, and then just highlight your mouse over the different things, because some of them are pretty self-explanatory. Some of them are a little bit weird. So we'll look at some of these today, and then also kind of like what these things are doing. So this is kind of a cool one to start off with, I think. So the list, if we type in panel here and we look at what's coming out of this guy, we can see there's a bunch of surfaces that are coming out. If you wanted to know how many items are in that list, you can do list length, and then this will return a number, so it tells me 26. So there's 26 items. So sometimes you're trying to do like some sort of command or something like that onto a series of data, and you need to know how many you had, rather than going back and trying to count them or grab that other slider and bring it all the way over. You can always quickly pull out this, and then you get quickly how many items you have. So we know we have 26. If you use ListItem, this will let you grab any sort of list and then pick out a specific number that you assign to it. So if you notice on the left, each of these items has a number, 0 through 26 probably, or 25. If I type in, if I connect this, notice how it's highlighted this guy. I can also change the index. The index is what's going to give me, now we said there was 25, so we can put 20 here. So if I put the index up, now you can see how I'm moving the one that I'm selecting around. See, and once you go past it, it's set to wrap, so it will keep wrapping around. If you set that to false, it's either going to be like true or false. You can set the boolean to false. Now it won't go past. It'll just kind of like disappear. So this is really neat, because once we've done this, now I could say, you know what, this guy, maybe I want to move. And here I can say like unit X or unit Y, since we've moved the other thing in that direction. And the factor we can put here. And we can adjust that. Whereas if we don't have this list item and we bypass it and just go directly into this, what do you think would happen? So let's see our panel here. What's coming out of that guy is only one thing. Oops, I gotta use right click. So regardless of which item we pick, this is pulling one item, right? And you can see how now it's moving all along and it's grabbing that one guy. If I bypass this and plug straight into the move command, I go like that, it's going to shift all of them over, right? So if that's what you're trying to do, you wouldn't need a list item. List item is really good because you can pull out a list. So the index, remember how we were pulling out one thing from this? We can also do this, where I can plug that in, and instead of giving it one item, which is what I'm doing here, I could put a series into this. Does that make sense? So instead of grabbing just one item, I can then apply some sort of control to it, so that instead of getting all those, I'm getting just one kind of thing. This is like a fixed number. I'm asking for number 10. But what if I wanted like every other number or every third number? You could apply, if we go up here into these sequences, we can tell it to grab So culling is a little bit different than what I'm trying to show you. Sequence will create basically, let's start off with series because that's the easiest one to understand. So series is the one we started with earlier. So if we grab this and make the step only 3 and connect this panel, you can see it's grabbed every third item from this over here. So if I connect this guy into there, it should, hang on, we can do it this way. So I've got the list item, oh, this can go straight into there. No? Okay. Let's tell it cull pattern. So the list item, we don't need them. So when you tell it to cull, it's going to look through your items and then apply like this sort of logic to it. So culling is basically a true or false kind of thing. So right now this is using a pattern. So if I go in here, if you right click and you say set boolean, you can just tell it false or true, or you can use the pattern. So see right now it's false, false, true, true. So it's grabbing this third and fourth, not the next two. If we were to make this true here, now it grabs in like a different order. Did I accept that? No, I didn't. You have to tell it true, commit change. There. So say it grabs 1, skips 1, grabs 2, skips 1. So this is one way you could do it. The other way is, instead of using a pattern, you can tell it to call the nth one. So this will just be whatever number you put at the bottom. So if I connect that, and then this one I make it 3. So what's cool about this is you're grabbing the third every 3. You're telling it to take it out. So the list going in has all of them, but the list coming out has been culled so that every third item is missing. Does that make sense? If I were to move this, I can make it take out every 7th one, every 8th one. So imagine you're working on your floor plates for the tower that we did, and you wanted every like 8th floor to be a mechanical floor. Then this is an easy way you could apply that logic to it. You just tell it cull every 8th floor. So the downside to using cull is you're basically taking the full tree, like the full amount. They're called data trees, that's why I almost said tree. But all those individual items that we had at the beginning, once they run through the cull, you're basically throwing away anything that's been culled. A different way of controlling data that's less destructive, if I never needed to adjust the ones that I'm taking out, like let's say they're done, and then now I want these to be like moved like I did there, see how it's changed, or I could then extend the ones I don't have. If I want to actually change something different to these, let's say I wanted to move those individual panels a little bit farther than the other ones, then I can't use this logic because I've gotten rid of those. Notice how here there's nothing. So I've told it to remove the nth one, which is in this case the 7th one, or we can bring that down. There's also this other one that's called dispatch, which I think is over here. So what dispatch does is it will create two lists. You can set a pattern just like we did with the other one, like the cull pattern, but instead of destroying the other one, we get two options coming out. So see here, there's a bunch, and here there's different ones. The dispatch pattern right now is true, false, true, false. So if I move that to there, it's going to move every other one. Let me see what happens if I do this. I don't think you can do that. So here I can change this set boolean to be true if we wanted every fifth one to be taken out. And then this one would have all the false values. So whenever it said it returned true, it would put it there. If it was different, it would pull it down here. Does that make sense? And you're creating two lists. So here I can move these one amount, and then I can copy that and connect this one to the second list. So if I zoom in here, I always do that. We have this one, which is moving those, this one, which is moving the other ones, and then I can adjust this one to be a separate amount. So see that? And if we change the pattern, so let's select this one so that stays. We could make this one false. So see, you can set up a pattern. Another way we can do this, which is really useful, is instead of dispatch, you can say greater than or larger than, and so we can set these to be coming into this. And then, or you can analyze. Right now, all of these are like the same. So let me show you. I have a definition here that has a bunch of random kind of things. So if I, oops. So this one, where's my stuff? Here. So what this is set up to do is I have a bunch of random circles. So I can disconnect all these guys. I can just copy it. Right, so let's say you got these could be part of a building, it could be an analysis of a city, and you're looking at like distances to certain things. So let's say we wanted to start applying some sort of control to this so that we can identify either like most important things or remove certain items out of our list that we don't want. So let's say we want to control the smaller circles differently than the larger circles, and I want Grasshopper to do the work for me. Right now you could probably manually pick them, but if we had millions of these, we would want to be able to let it be automated. So the first piece is we need to analyze those circles and pull out what it is that we're trying to control. So here I want to find the radius. So if you type in deconstruct arc, there's all these different things that we can do if you deconstruct. You can deconstruct the plane, face, path, all these different things. And basically what that is, it's kind of like exploding it and analyzing all the information individually. So you can get a number of sides, the points, the edges, area, any sort of value that you can get out of it. You can do that with these. So if I do that, this is going to start showing me this. I don't need to see all those. That's the normal, the plane. I want to know which of these has a radius that's larger than or less than a set number that I can give it. So we can do larger than, and then you can grab here, which is giving us a bunch of radiuses. So if I type a panel here so that we can see, so coming out of there we have a bunch of items. So that's the radius of each of these specific circles. And then if I want to know which one is number 0, you can find out using your list item. So that's the list of things. So which one is number 0? So let's just say up to 10, so 5, or number 5. 5 is 3.21, but it's actually 4 is number 5 because it starts at 0. So if you put this in as the index and you highlight that, it should, you can do this to kind of see it a little better. Won't show me it. Oh well. Oh, that's not the one I want. This one. So we can use this to start looking for which ones are larger than, so this becomes the first number. So that's what came out of there. And then this can be the second number. And then coming out of that, I get 14 values. Out of here, I have 14 values. So this is going to be true if A is greater than B, and these ones are true if it's equal to or less than A. So now if I type in extrude for those, and then put in unit Z. Why am I failing? Oh, because this just has true, false, true, false. So what I want to do, that's what I wanted to show you, is dispatch. So I'm going to use dispatch. Remember, you can set a pattern to the dispatch, and you can create different lists. So the list is, you can plug it into here, or we can plug it into the original, which is the whole series of circles. So that's my list. And if I just do that, oh, come on, my mouse is like really glitchy. It's doing this based off of this pattern, which is just true, false, true, false. That's the default kind of pattern. I can also tell it to use this instead. And now look at what it's doing. So that has 10, this one has 4. So there was only 4 that were larger than area 3. If I bring this down now, notice how now here we have 8 values. So that's one way you can start to do this. And then here I can put like a slider to be like 50. This is going to be gigantic. And those guys will shoot up. We can make that look a little better. And then the other circles, they remain there because they're smaller. But we can see how it has a list B. This is all of the other ones where it was false. That's the cool thing with dispatch. Dispatch doesn't destroy your amount of data. It just organizes it into 2 things. That's why if you look at the little logo, it has like these guys going that way, these guys going the other one. When you call a any sort of stream of data, it's always going to just throw away some. You can then also do, like, if you wanted to, you can like split a list. You can partition it so it goes to different things. You can reverse the list. So if you had like 1 through 5, you can then make that 5 through 1. So depending what it is you're trying to do, you can get different things out of them. You can also create like pieces of that list out of the other list. So you could say, I want to extract items 10 through 20 and only use those. I want to get every even one. You can grab every 10th one if you set up a pattern. There's really a million ways you could do it. You could do all of them that have a certain value. So dispatch is kind of the one command, and then being able to analyze things and then using like math to start setting up those patterns makes it so that you can fully like change a ton of stuff. So what this one lets me do now is I have this all set up to go for this guy. And my mouse is jumping all over. Yeah, I'm not trying to do that. If I were to grab these and copy them, now on these ones we went to 50. We can bring this list to that and make these ones go down a different amount. So now we have two different ways we can control information. You could also make it, instead of being the amount that it is, you could say